3, 2, 1. Welcome to the David the Dog Trainer Podcast. 161?
I think so.
161. What's good?
Not much. Okay. Maybe this is...
Oh, yeah.
Hello. Okay, there we go.
Oh, yeah.
I was like, man, I can't hear anything. Oh, no.
Yep.
Beautiful day. It's been a busy week. Bunch of food and photos and videos. And we're doing this on a Sunday because someone had
Sunday
some
take
fun.
two.
Someone had a sick new world this week.
That's right. Yeah.
That's David.
That's me.
He was in Vegas,
Yeah.
baby.
In Vegas. And then on the way back home, I slept in all the wrong positions and tweaked my back and was bedridden for like 24 hours because of it. So
Yeah.
that's why we're doing it Sunday.
Yeah,
Here we are.
He texted me. He was like, yeah. Can we do this Sunday because I can't move?
Can't move.
I said, sure.
So you guys know the drill. So Sunday podcast episodes, we got to crank through it a little bit. So we got a couple topics to talk about here. And then Thursday, we're going to have a guest on the podcast.
Ooh, I'm excited. I didn't know. When'd you put Kingston up here?
He's been up there for a while.
Really?
Yeah.
He's been staring at me all this time.
The
Huh?
old Kingslayer.
Yeah.
He was just at the shop. Kingston, for everybody that doesn't know, he is the Rottweiler in the framed photo right there that was gifted to me by his owner, Mary Jo.
Yep.
Long time client of ours.
Yes.
Long time. I actually almost adopted that dog. Did I ever tell you that?
No.
I was going to keep him. So Kingston, so this is actually kind of a funny story. So when I was first getting into dog training, I was going to some seminars and stuff like that. And I can't remember what seminar I went to, but there was this dog, Kingston, who was a Rottweiler with Real Rottweiler Rescue, and he was being fostered by a woman, Mary Jo, who's a longtime client of ours, fantastic client. Yeah. I've gotten Waffles, my new dog, Waffles. She fostered him prior to. My sister got a dog from her. She's brought a gazillion dogs to us for training at this point now. Wonderful woman. Very, very involved in the rescue world. She was fostering Kingston, and she kind of realized Kingston was like unadoptable, so she always gets the difficult dogs, and he was living with her, and Kingston's still alive. But mind you, like I said, he was just at the facility, boarding recently. And he's getting old, though. I think he's like 11 now or some shit.
Wow.
Yeah. So whatever. So Kingston was pretty young when she first got him. I think he was maybe 2, somewhere around there. And she had took him to all these different seminars, and she took him to, I don't really want to like name drop all these people. Right? Yeah. But there was like 3 very well-known trainers. I believe she took him to their seminars. And basically each one of these individuals was like, I don't know what to do with this dog.
Oh, wow.
He was a pain in the ass, right? Like he's a really, really confident, headstrong Rottweiler. He's a big dog. He's a strong dog. You try to correct him, he give you attitude over it. Super fucking leash reactive, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
Right. And, my kind of young new dog trainer, cocky brain was like, I'll fucking train this dog. Right. So I remember reaching out to her, and this is advice, or call it advice, whatever, for new dog trainers out there. But I used to do this all the time where I would know people in the industry that had dogs that were like untrainable. Yeah. Right. And I would just message them and be like, yo, bring the dog over. Let's see what we can get done. Right. Yeah. So I messaged her. I told her, let's see what we can get done with this dog. Right. She brought him in for a lesson. He was a pain in the ass. He was definitely difficult, but I felt confident. I knew what to do with him. So I told her, I was like, let's just do a board and train with him. I think I did it for free. I'm pretty sure I said, let's do a board and train, leave him here for a month. I'll train him. I'll send him home. And me and Kingston, he wound up staying with me for, I think, like 6 weeks, something like that. Not because he needed more time, but just because I liked him. Yeah. And he was a foster dog of hers. He didn't have a home or anything. He would hang out with, at the time, I just had Vinny and Vera. He'd hang out with fucking Vinny and Vera. And, he's just a cool dog. I really liked him. We got all the training done. He did really, really well, and I was considering adopting him. I really was. I think at the time, though, I was just by myself. I thought 3 dogs sounded like a lot. Yeah. At the time, I think I had just moved into the Heights West location when we opened it, the current Miracle location. I was living there initially when I first got the space, and I was like overwhelmed of like, oh my God, I'm here, I'm with the dogs all the time. I already have 2 dogs. God, add a 3rd one to it. Sounds like a lot. But he was a fucking sweet dog, man. Still is a sweet dog. Yeah. He's just the easy boy now, He just comes, and he's still got that attitude, He'll still kind of give you a look every now and then, but he just comes and chills and mingles and hangs out, and he just wound up turning into a phenomenal dog. Mary Jo obviously formally adopted him, maybe 5 years ago, something like that, after she had already had him for like 4 or 5 years. And turned out to be a great dog. She has, he hangs out. He used to, he could not be around other dogs. And she's got Foster's in and out all the time. He'll just kind of chill with them, and he's just turned out to be great. So good dog. Funny story one time, though. I remember I was doing a board and train with him, and I was doing a lesson, and the weather was really nice out. We first moved into the west location that we had, and I had Kingston just chilling outside in the yard, right? And I'm doing a lesson, door's right here, so I could hear if anything's going on out back. And I finished the lesson. I'm like, shit, I got to let my dogs out. So Vinny and Vera, at this point, they weren't really hanging out with him a whole lot. And Vinny, my Malinois, also kind of an asshole male dog. I remember I open their crates, I go run to the back door, and I just fucking whip the door open to go let them go run out. And suddenly Kingston's there, and Vinny and Kingston just, boom, heads collided. Kingston's like, oh! Yeah. Jump on him. Yeah. I'm like, oh!
No. Yeah.
Pull him away. I was like, oh, that could have ended ugly.
Yeah. Like Vinny boy, wrong guy.
Yeah, I was like, Vinny, I was like, I know you're a tough cookie, but I don't know if, I don't know how well you'd do in this situation.
He's got a few pounds on you.
So cool dog. I like Kingston. Yeah. But yeah, she gave me that. I remember one day she came in and she's like, here, I got this picture for you. It's all framed and everything. I was like, that's really nice.
Is that a Greg Murray?
It's a Greg Murray. Yeah. Peanut butter. He was featured in Peanut Butter Dogs.
Oh, okay. Famous now.
Famous. The famous Greg Murray. Shout out Greg Murray. If you guys like dog photography, go look up the Greg Murray on Instagram. He's got a bunch of books and stuff. Pretty cool.
Yeah.
Okay, so we got 2/3 things to talk about today. Talked about Kingston already, obviously. So quick follow-up talk on was the last episode, the crating episode we talked about?
Yes.
Okay. That episode stirred up all sorts of fucking heat.
I knew it would.
Knew it would, obviously, right? And okay. So basically, in a nutshell, if you didn't watch the last episode already, go back and watch it. But in a nutshell, I shared a couple of stories of things I had heard from potential clients calling in of really awful situations that happen. Coming home to dogs that one dog killed the other dog because they got in a fight, right? Coming home to a dog, destroying a windowsill, the dog getting cut really badly and almost bleeding out when she wasn't there. A dog eating an entire bottle of Tylenol when an owner wasn't there, et cetera, right? I shared a bunch of stories, and I just shared a couple of recent ones. Over the years, over the freaking 11 years or so that I've been doing this, I've just heard numerous stories. And we shared the example of best case scenario if you're leaving your dog out unattended for 8 hours a day, while you're at work, not in a crate. Best case scenario is you get lucky and the dog never gets into anything. Second best case scenario is the dog gets into something that's not a big deal. It's not toxic to them, and you get a fucking remote control chewed up or something like that.
Yeah.
Worst case scenario is your dog's great all its life, and one day it just finds a pen you dropped on the ground or something, and chews this thing, gets a sharp piece, gets fucking cut in the mouth, bleeds, die. You know what I mean? Like there's so many worst case scenarios that can possibly happen, and if you're not there to guide and influence their behavior, you're putting yourself at the mercy of that, right? So that sparked three different conversations, right? Conversation number one is other people that were, because a bunch of the clips and stuff started kind of going viral on TikTok and Facebook and Instagram and stuff like that, as well as the YouTube video did well. Some of the people were further sharing stories about things that happened when they thought it was a good idea to leave their dogs out unattended. And again, may not have ended tragically, but very well could have, right? They basically got lucky in those situations. Half of the people were basically saying that if you leave your dog out unattended or if you leave your dog out unattended for long periods of time and your dog gets into things, that's a problem, that you're not providing enough enrichment and stimulation and good training for them. And if you were really a good dog trainer, that would never happen. And then the other side of the equation was basically people saying, if you have to leave to go to work and you have to leave your dog in general, that you shouldn't have a dog. Right?
Jesus Christ.
So I'm going to try my hardest to kind of go through those three things and play a little bit of devil's advocate with stuff, right?
Okay.
And try to see both sides of the spectrum, right? So thing number one is, okay, we could hypothetically say that a lot of these people that have chosen to crate their dogs because of A, B, or C thing that happened that caused something bad to happen, we could arguably say, well, that's human error. Right. And you got to puppy proof your house better, or you do need to provide better training to make sure that the dog isn't doing some of those things and not being as mischievous and et cetera, right? Yeah. We could argue that end of the spectrum. The other option is, or the other side of the conversation is the people that are saying that those things that are saying exactly that, right? We could say that no matter how well trained your dog is, this isn't even a training conversation at this point, right? The conversation is not like, can we train the dog to a point where they don't get into these things? I agree that if you're crating your dog only because you know with 100% certainty that if you don't crate your dog and you leave the house that your dog's going to go chew up those things over there or get into that trash can or whatever it may be, that in addition to management in the form of crating your dog when you're not home, you should be addressing those problems as well. Now, how would we do that? We would do that through the easiest method possible, which is setting up a camera on those things, pretending that you're leaving, simulating it, and engaging something like an e-collar to create inhibitions of getting into the things that they're not supposed to get into. Or if you really want to get crazy with it, there's particular e-collars out there you could buy. I think Garmin used to make one. Now, I've never used it before, so I don't know how reliable it is. But Garmin makes one that had basically little hot spots, right? That they would have like 3 little things. And basically you could set those things in particular locations, like one in your trash can, one on the counter, one whatever here, one there,
like a
one under your Christmas tree, that sets a proximity sensor that doesn't let the dog get into it. So it creates like invisible fences around your stuff in your house, right? So I think in addition to managing and crating your dog, it is essential to be simultaneously working through those problems so that, if you do need to walk out the house to grab your trash for 5 minutes or whatever it is, that your dog's not getting into those types of things, right?
Yeah,
but I still stand by the conversation that why risk it? Why risk it? I just don't see the point.
I don't either.
Right? I think somebody else asked the question of, well, if your dog is in the crate and seeing all these things that they want to get to but is being held back by the crate door, wouldn't that hypothetically create more drive and more anxiety and make the problem worse when they're not in the crate? To which I said, again, this isn't a training conversation. And if we're simultaneously addressing those problems when the dog is not in the crate, then it shouldn't be any different when they're in the crate, right? Like my dog, I think the person used a cat as an example, right? Like my dog doesn't chase my cat. Right? Yeah. None of my dogs chase my cat. So I don't worry about when I put them in the crate and there's a physical barrier there, that there's this increase of drive if I'm holding you back from doing this thing that you want to get to because I've solved that problem. So again, I'm not saying with any of this that you should be using the crate as the Band-Aid because you can't get the dog to not do these types of things. I'm simply saying that the longer you stretch out the period of time where you're not supervising, the more you put yourself at risk where if for whatever reason the dog chose to do it, that was the day, time, minute that the dog was going to try to get into something or chase your cat, that you are in a position to address it. Or if you're not there, you're just not in a position to do anything about it. And then you start allowing the dog to build on these habits and routines, right? And it becomes a bad habit then at that point. So,
I think of it as like when you're in like a doctor's office and you have to wait for like an hour until your appointment, and someone tells you just sit there. And you can't look at your phone. You can't look at the magazines. You're just supposed to sit there for an hour. Yeah. Man, how fidgety you would get after a while. You'd just be like, I just want to read a magazine, read an article real quick, make the time go by. I don't know if it's the same for dogs, but like I just feel like the longer period that they're alone, it just...
Well, 100%. But then we could play devil's advocate on that, and we could argue that example you described of you're sitting in a chair for an hour, you can't do anything else, so you get more fidgety and more anxious. People would say, well, if you put the dog in the crate, isn't that doing the same exact thing to them?
I guess so.
Right?
I suppose so.
Which I can understand the perspective. And this kind of gets into the third thing of like, well, if you need to leave your dog for super prolonged periods of time, should you even have a dog? Right?
I guess so.
Let's play devil's advocate with that a
Yeah.
little bit, right? One, I still stand behind. Dogs are generally sleeping a large chunk of the day.
Sure.
Right? We've proven that dogs are not like humans. So though we could look at that and we could humanize it to dogs, it's a different species. They have different needs, right? They sleep for different amounts of time, stuff like that.
Yeah.
So it's not the same.
Yeah.
Right? But like, I think somebody used the example, like full day at work. Let's say with commute time and everything, let's say it's 9 hours a day, right? You get home 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, right? You've got, 4 hours, 5 hours till bedtime. Are you really able to provide enough stimulation and enough exercise and stuff like that to like really fulfill your dog's needs?
Yeah.
I guess short answer to that question is I don't know, right? I know my own anecdotal experience with my dogs. And I crate my dogs for long periods of time throughout the week. When I'm at work, when my wife's at work, we provide plenty of exercise for them in the mornings and the evenings and on the weekends, but they are kenneled for long periods of time. And I don't see them like suffering. You know what I mean? Like I don't see them suffering this horrible life of they're miserable all the time. They're just so spun up out of control all the time. They can't ever relax. I just don't see that. Right. And I think that's a part of like the domestication of animals is like, we could argue any animal that we've domesticated, like farm animals, like freaking dogs, cats, like all these types of things, like their life out in nature probably would be a little bit more fulfilled and enriched, and they would live this more natural life and all that kind of stuff. You know what I mean? Like we absolutely could argue that that's probably the case, but what comes with that? Plenty of health issues, plenty of safety issues, shorter lifespan. You know what I mean? Like
give and take.
Like it's a give and take with all this kind of stuff. And unfortunately, we live in a world where we've domesticated dogs and people get dogs. So I don't know what the right answer to as far as, at what point should you not get a dog? I don't really know what the answer is to that, right? Because everybody lives a totally different life with their dog, provides different things for them, and every dog has different individual needs. All I know is if you're providing enough stimulation when you are home, it should be fine. There shouldn't be an issue with it.
Exactly.
So, I don't know. That's kind of my short rambling on the crating conversation. People really got spun up. And it's like my last thing I'll say on it is just I'm just not willing to risk my dog's safety with things. Yeah. Right. And I also don't feel that, a lot of these people were basically saying, well, if you need to leave your dog that long and you're leaving them in a crate, you should leave them in a bigger space so they could enrich themselves and entertain themselves. And it's like, no, you relying on like, oh my gosh, like I'm not able to provide a good life for my dog because I have to leave for work for all this time. So I'm just going to leave them loose so they could just provide their own good. Like it's not any better. They're still by themselves with very minimal to do. Like what is the only difference of them being out of the crate is that they can meander from one couch to the other, right?
Yeah,
or they could go pick up a toy and chew it in the sun over there and then move to the shade and pick up another toy. But they're still going to be bored out of their mind. It's like we could look at it like if I'm stuck in my room all day versus I'm stuck in my living room all day versus I'm stuck in my whole house all day, but I still have the same things to enrich myself with. Is it any better that I have more space than less space?
Right.
Not really.
Not really.
Right? Like, there's been plenty of times. I remember when I got fucking COVID and I was stuck at home for, at the time, I think the thing was 6 days or something like that. I had to stay home. And I had freaking every TV show on the face of the planet that I could watch and every book I wanted to read and all this kind of stuff. But I was still bored out of my fucking mind. Oh, yeah. Because I'm still stuck in this familiar house, even though I have all these things to enrich myself with.
Yeah.
Right. So I think the bigger conversation that I don't have an answer to is at what point do we say you shouldn't have a dog, right? At what point does it teeter to the point where it's impossible to provide the life for your dog that is truly fulfilling and enriching to them, right? What is what is the bare minimum of enrichment and physical activity and all that kind of stuff that you have to be able to provide for your dog before it starts becoming like neglect, right? And again, I don't really have an answer to that. I just have my anecdotal evidence of my situation and what I do with my dogs and seeing that they're stimulated enough. So,
yeah.
So what do you think? Anything to add to that?
I mean, I'm in total agreement with you. I think the only time like the line might be blurred that it's like maybe a dog isn't your lifestyle is like if you're one of those people that has to work, you know, the 15-hour days, you're working the 70 hours a week, and you don't have either you don't want to pay for a service or you don't have someone to come let your dog out. Maybe then, but I feel like if you have a normal like work day, like a 9 to 5, they're going to be totally fine.
Yeah,
and I think you hit the nail on the head with like whether it's the crate or the living room or the whole house, whatever they have access to, it's like they're still there by themselves, you know, and they're not doing anything different than if they were just in the crate.
People create a lot of hypotheticals in their head to like make themselves feel like better or worse about things.
Yeah.
And I have my like smart ass answer to like everybody that says like you should leave the dog out of the crate than in the crate.
Yeah.
You know, when people say like crates are cages and how would you feel if you were stuck in a fucking cage and stuff like that, when they're just arguing like the amount of size, right?
Yeah.
Where I always have the smart ass reply of like, at what exact square footage does it become okay confinement? Because my house as a whole is confinement. They're confined to being in my house, right? A room is confinement, a crate is confinement, et cetera, et cetera. The only difference about them is that some are bigger than others. So at what exact square footage does it no longer become a cage?
Yeah.
Right?
That's a good point. I
Like
mean,
at what exact square footage is it not a cage? Or is it the fact that it's bars? The dogs can see that it's bars and not a wall.
it's in jail.
It's a jail.
Yeah.
Right?
Jesus.
Like, so whatever. So
yeah.
whatever. You know, like I said, keep the conversation going with it. My whole point of that last episode, I keep saying, I'm going to say one last thing about it, right?
Yeah.
My whole point of that last episode was just to tell people that think that it would never happen to them. All of the possible things that could happen to them when they're not home, if they're leaving their dog unattended.
Yeah.
And it could be significantly more tragic than you think. And I promise you, I said this last episode, every single person any of those things has happened to probably told themselves at one point, it'll be fine. That won't happen to me.
Yeah.
It only takes one time.
Do people still do like the doggy doors outside?
Yeah, definitely.
Really?
Yeah.
I feel like that used to be the huge thing, but I don't hear about it so much anymore. But I feel like
Depends where you live.
Yeah.
You know, I think somebody was commenting on this that mentioned same deal. Somebody that was basically saying like, well, we don't use crates. I don't use crates, whatever. But they were also explaining that they live on a farm, right? It's a totally different life. And they were kind of giving me some shit of like, well, you're creating these blanket rules of things everybody should or shouldn't do with their dogs. And yeah, I am, right? And listen, like I said, like if it works for you, great. And if you live the type of life and the type of place that it doesn't apply to you, then don't apply this knowledge. You know what I mean? Like I'm not telling everybody that they have to do it. It's like as dog trainers, no different than dog parks, we recommend as a blanket rule, they're usually overall not a good idea, right?
Yeah.
Not crating your dog when you're not home overall is really not that great of an idea.
Yeah.
Right? But there are plenty of people out there that I tell them that and they choose to still go to the dog park and they live out their whole life with their dog and nothing ever happens. Or there's people that I tell them that and they still choose to not crate their dog and they live out the whole life and nothing bad ever happens. And I'm not saying it can't be done, right? No. I'm just saying, to me, it's not worth the risk. And that's my just knowledge that I'm passing. And that if it doesn't apply to you, hell yeah. Hell yeah. Good for you.
You know, I can kind of talk on that because I had farm dogs growing up because I grew up on a farm and we had 100% outside dogs.
Sure.
And 90% of the time, you know where they were at? Sitting on the porch. Literally sitting on the porch. Like they had probably 10 acres of fenced in yard.
Yeah.
90% of the time, they're just sitting on the porch. And they could go wherever they wanted in that 10 acres, you know? But they just want to be where they feel the most safe.
Yeah. And we could also listen, I also am not too prideful to say that a lot of people that live on farms and the dogs are just free all the time, they are living the most natural kind of life.
For sure.
You know what I mean? And I am totally okay with admitting that those dogs probably are living a better life than 90% of dogs that live in an urban environment or a suburban environment or any of those types of things. And that's great. And I think we all should be striving for providing more natural lives like that to our dogs. dogs, whether it's through things like going hiking or being in the woods or being out in nature and prioritizing those types of things, not just for our dogs, but for ourselves to get out of this box that we live in, you know? I think that's extremely noble and extremely good. But I reassure everybody also that like the bulk of people that I talk to on this podcast are just not those people. Yeah. Right. And if you are one of those people and you're listening to this, pick and choose what works for you. Like you live a different, like the information I would provide to one client or the knowledge I'd provide to one client of what they need to do for their situation is going to be very different from the next. Yeah. You know?
Yeah.
And this is I have to be general with my information or my advice that I give on podcasts because it's just, I'm not even talking to anybody specifically. I'm just talking to the world right now, just my opinions on things.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I mean, a person that lives in downtown Chicago is going to be totally different than a person that lives in the suburbs in Lakewood.
Yep.
You know, like your environments, your situations are all going to be totally different. So it's like, you have to do what works for you.
100%.
Works for your dog.
Okay, so this segues nicely into, you know, getting back to advice that I generally give to people, but not to other people. Okay. Long time ago, I haven't talked about this in a while, but this is going to be kind of funny / kind of like insightful for people, right?
Okay.
So I have to apologize for a contradiction that I have created.
Okay. What happened?
Are you ready for this?
I'm ready.
Long time ago, did a podcast episode as general advice, talking to the world, where I said that I thought the double down was the stupidest fucking thing.
Oh, no.
I saw. I could not find a singular place that I would ever possibly need it, that I thought it was generally kind of an unfair expectation to put on the dog. Whatever. You guys, I'm sure you could find the episode. I think it's called like the dreaded double down or something.
Yeah, it's like episode 5 or something.
It's an old one. It might be like 20 or 25 or something like that.
Okay.
Right? I have finally found one place that I used it to much success.
Really?
One place. So let's first start off by reiterating my issue with it.
Yes,
right?
please.
So my issue with it gets into the whole conversation of like the loading sequence and like stopping the dog from thinking about doing things versus actually doing them, et cetera, et cetera. And I want to first start off by saying I still stand very firmly behind that thought of I want to address I want to address choices, not thoughts. There are plenty of times that I think about doing things I shouldn't do, but I don't do them. And I think that in the world we live in, that is all you could ask of anybody or anything.
Yeah,
right?
For sure.
Okay. So I found a place where it is, we used it to stop a specific behavior that there was absolutely nothing else that we could have done to stop that specific behavior, in my opinion. Right?
Really?
Okay. So we had this dog we worked with recently.
Okay.
His name was Harley, right? Harley did a board and train with us. And dog had all sorts of issues, right? This was 2 months ago maybe, did a board and train with us, did with Bridget specifically. And massive stranger danger issues, super fearful, super anxious, could not be crated at all when the owner left the house, right? He would try to like kind of damage the crate, hurt himself in it, stuff like that, right? So we worked through just issue at a time. He goes home. Everything's going really well except the crate. Okay. Now, our advice, generally speaking, when it comes to crate nonsense issues, is address the problems, right? Excessive demand barking in the crate, biting at the bars, scratching at the crate, things like that, right? Address the specific things the dog does and allow the dog to get used to being in it and settle down, right? Okay. But the problem was, and I'm sure most people have seen this before, is that he would drool so excessively in the crate that they would leave him for like an hour and they would come home and the crate pan would just be absolutely full of drool, which is first off disgusting, right? Second off, not healthy for them to be standing in and getting themselves all wet. That can create, you know, infections and rashes and like all sorts of things like that. And 3, the owners just felt absolutely awful about it, just terrible about it, right? So we did all the things we normally would do, which is stop all the nonsense, stop 100% of the nonsense. He didn't do anything in the crate except just sit in there and just fucking drool. That's it, right? Usually we give people, usually with dogs like that, after we address the nonsense, we give it a week, we give it 2 weeks, and usually it kind of settles down and gets better on his own.
Yeah.
Not the case with this guy, right? So we went out there, and I'm just kind of playing around with, he's in there. I'm trying to kind of interrupt the state of mind a little bit. And I told myself, I was like, I'm going to fucking give it a go. I'm going to give it a go, right? Or actually, you know what it was? Is he started whining at one point, and I corrected him for whining, and he put his head down on his own. And I realized when he put his head down, he went from, the drool was from panting. He's right? He put his head down, and as he put his head down, just naturally, his mouth closes. Mm-hmm. Right?
Yeah.
So that's when I thought to myself, I was like, fuck.
Oh, man. I know what I have to do.
I didn't want it to be true. I didn't want it to be true, but I knew what I must do.
That's what I was going to say.
So I said, all right. And I didn't even tell, because Bridget's right there with me, right? And Bridget, because like this was a project, and she had crushed it with this client. These clients fucking love her, right? But like we just couldn't get past this fucking drooling issue, right?
Yeah.
So I went out just to provide some extra opinions on it. And I started doing it, and I didn't even tell anybody what I was doing, because like I'm like, Bridget's right here. She's heard me fucking talk so much shit about this double down before. I'm like, we're going to implement a double down right now. She's going to be like, you fucking piece of shit.
Oh, God.
So I start doing it, right? And sure as shit, fucking totally stops panting. Totally stops panting, right? So we start then simulating leaving the house, and we put a camera on him. Again, everybody, for all of you that don't know, first off, get a fucking iPhone. Second off, use your fucking FaceTime feature with 2 iPhones for any of this shit where you can't see your dog. FaceTime with your laptop and your iPhone, 2 iPhones, whatever, and an e-collar can be your absolute best friend for getting past some really annoying behavioral issues, right? So whatever. So put the camera on him, go outside, same deal. He starts perking up, panting, head up, give that tap, right? Head chills right the fuck back down, right? And then he just fucking laid there. And no panting, no drooling, anything like that. It was amazing. It was amazing, right? So then I instructed them, because again, how are we then going to generalize this, right?
Yeah.
Seeing his sequence of right when you put him in the crate, he starts getting himself spun up. We were able to settle him down. Then as we left, after we left the house and locked the house, it was like 5 minutes. Then he started working himself up again. Then we addressed it. Then it was like 15 minutes of nothing. I said, here's what you need to do. For the next week, you need to set up this same exact drill 20 minutes before you leave the house. Mm-hmm. Make sure that he's totally calm before you go to leave, and then just leave and be gone. Bro, within like 5 days, they emailed Bridget, and they're like, he's not drooling at all. He's just not drooling anymore, right?
Oh my
Was he
gosh.
totally calm in it? Maybe not totally calm in it, but he wasn't fucking drooling anymore, and that was really the only problem, right? Was that he was drooling like fucking crazy. No problem since. That was like fucking like 3.5, 4 weeks ago.
That's crazy.
No problem since. None.
That's just so crazy, man. I remember that episode, dude. You were just...
I was going off on it.
Yeah. We were like watching... We were reacting to some girl that was like all about the double down. And now we got it.
Man. Now, I still, again, giving myself... I got to give myself a little bit here, right?
Okay.
So I still stand firmly behind... I was using it to stop a very specific problem that there was no other solution for, right? Panting is not something the dog can identify and say, oh, I just stop panting and I avoid this correction. Yeah. So I had to use an incompatible behavior, right? Mm-hmm. You cannot pant and have your chin down at the same time.
True.
You just can't. It's impossible, right? I mean, it's probably possible, but panting to the extent of like drool just fucking pouring out of your mouth was pretty darn impossible. And we used it, not that my expectation is going to be he has to have his chin down all the time in the crate. We used it initially for like 2 weeks. Listen, maybe I'm happy to debate the like, was it a little unclear for him? Maybe is the expectation of the crate maybe a little bit unclear? Yeah, probably. That's why I don't like them to begin with, right? But it temporarily broke the pattern of him rehearsing that behavior of just drooling like fucking crazy in the crate. Yep. It stopped his state of mind from fucking spiraling so out of control. And we were able to then loosen up a little bit on the parameters, and now he just doesn't drool in the crate anymore. You know what I mean? Like it worked amazing. It truly worked amazingly.
That's crazy.
So
yeah, I mean, whatever it takes right there.
Got to do what you got to do.
That's so funny that like just a little thing that he did on his own made you think, oh, what is it? I don't know. I know what I must do, but I don't have the strength to do it. Is that? Did you tell Bridget after
Anakin
the fact?
Skywalker.
Yeah.
Yeah. After we got in the car, and I was just like, I looked at her, and she already knew, right?
Yeah,
she already knew, because I at no point ever said double down, right? I said we're gonna make sure that he keeps his chin on the ground. Right? I get in the crate, and I just look at her, and
yeah, that's so crazy though. Like, I mean, such a simplistic solution, really, at the end of it.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. So listen, shout out creators of the fucking double down.
Yeah.
You know, y'all helped me out with this one.
It took 2.5 years, but we figured out a way to use it.
Yeah. The one and only place still that I've ever implemented it, ever.
Yeah.
Right? And now to answer people's question, like, how do you teach the double down? That's the other thing I think is a little bit kind of tough, is like, it's a challenging expectation to create with them. Like, yeah, you could shape it with food, obviously, and teach the dog to put their chin on the ground. But like, when you look at actually teaching it, you're kind of, my other issue with it is you're kind of, there's no way to like lure it without food. Like, I can't really shape it with like leash pressure or anything like that. Okay. You know what I mean? Like, you kind of have to just, again, it's done at a pretty low. I think we did it with him at like a 4 or a 5, like pretty low. He was motivated enough by it, obviously, but it was subjectively pretty low.
For sure.
We just kind of tap, 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 tap. Chin went down, tapping stopped, right? So we're using negative reinforcement, obviously, but we're free shaping it with negative reinforcement, right? And what I mean by that is you're not giving the dog any guidance, right?
Yeah.
You're just tapping until the dog figures it out. And naturally speaking, I would say dogs kind of suppress with aversives, you know what I mean? So like what is suppressing? Generally going into like a lower position, stuff like that. So it's kind of it's natural kind of for them to do, but it's still a little bit gray. And I don't like the fact that you have to kind of free shape it with an aversive, you know, but he figured it out pretty quickly. Right. And we were able to get the job done, and it worked out. It worked out awesome. So I was pleased with it.
Let's go.
Let's fucking go double down. Now, don't all you guys go out there fucking trying double downs with your dogs. Consult a professional before you use a double down.
Yeah.
And 9 out of 10 times, you probably don't need it.
Yeah. Exhaust other options. Please.
Exhaust other options. But it worked.
Yeah.
So that was good.
Okay.
Okay. So the last thing I was trying to find, I couldn't find the fucking video. I'll see if I can find it by the next podcast episode, was this video. So two other. So I was just, we've been getting, we keep getting reviews, obviously, which is cool. I always say like the cornerstone and the foundation of your business should be true testimonials from actual clients of yours who have seen actual success. All the fucking followers and YouTube views and all that shit in the world means absolutely nothing unless you have people you've actually worked with that are just preaching the gospel of your company, right?
Yep.
So every now and then I'll kind of like, go through this thing where it's like, you see people talking shit online and this and that. And you kind of get a little down on yourself, right? But then I always go back to then we get some reviews and I'm like, damn, it reassures the work that you do. So I just want to read a couple of them and I'll share a story about one of them in particular, right? So these are the last 3 reviews we've gotten. This first one, and first other thing, and this is kind of cool to me at this point. None of these reviews are me. All these are my trainers, right? Because they're out there fucking crushing it, doing fantastic work. That's all that a business owner can ever ask for. Yep. First one, this one's from Nick. So Nick wrote, our greyhound was snapping at people seemingly out of the blue and bit me pretty badly. We enrolled in the 10 training session package, and while things were difficult at first with some challenging patches in the middle, our dog had a turning point about halfway in when he realized we were indeed in charge and has been an angel ever since. Cannot recommend Michelle enough. She was so kind and considerate, listened to us, and helped make us feel like we were in control. She worked wonders with our dog. We have also used Miracle for a boarding visit, which went very well as well. So we just got this one yesterday. So this is a cool one because I never worked with this client, but I saw this client a few times. I remember first and foremost speaking to them on the phone.
Yeah.
before they signed up for training, and the distraught in their voices over, like, this dog was like biting them like pretty severely, and he's a big greyhound too, tons of anxiety issues, things like that, and they were just they just couldn't even fathom that it would be possible to get past this. I think it was like probably a month from when I first talked to them to when they signed up, because they genuinely just thought it was a lost cause. Right? And I remember seeing them walk into like session 3, and they had this like look of defeat on their face, right? You said in the middle. They had some challenging patches in the middle, because this dog was a huge pain. He would push back, right? Yeah. He did not want to relinquish the control, right? And I remember, even myself just being like, I remember seeing them come in and they just seemed so defeated. And I was like, damn, you get that kind of itch of like, oh, I want to like step in and help, but I knew Michelle knew what she was doing, right? And she fucking got the job done. And this was a really cool one to see come through yesterday, because I had witnessed firsthand how hard it was for them, and to see how far past things they wound up getting. That was just really, really cool.
Yeah.
So that's one.
Super cool.
Next one. Amy Thomas. This one we got 3 days ago. We recently sent our 14-month-old German Shepherd, Harley Quinn, to Miracle Canine for their board and train program. Was it expensive? Yes. Was it worth every penny? Yes. All capitals. Bridget was her lead trainer, and she is a miracle worker. Before training, we could not even walk Harley Q because she was so uncontrollable. She would bark and lunge and even broke free from her leash. She jumped on everyone, and no matter what we tried, we just couldn't break that habit, amongst many other things. While she was still as sweet and loving as she was before her training, in all other aspects, she is a completely different dog. We don't even need a leash to walk her. She now goes with us everywhere that dogs are allowed. She no longer has to be crated. If we have people over due to her jumping over excitement, if we have people come over due to her jumping or overexcitement. Not only are we happy and relieved, but Harley Q is much happier, more confident dog as well. I cannot recommend Miracle Canine training enough. Again, a great one. Bridget fucking crushed it on this. Not to be confused with other Harley we were talking about. This is a different Harley that was in around the same time. Just cool, right? Like, nothing crazy. Just a fucking psycho German Shepherd that needed some training. That got the training, and now the owners live a better life. Just imagine, I mean, most people listening to this, if they haven't done training yet, have probably experienced a dog being a psycho on a leash, and when they're big and strong, it's miserable to walk them. Or a dog that you just cannot have out when you have guests come over the house. Two really, really big deal things.
Very much so.
Okay, so I'm going to skip 2 of them and go to this one that we just got a week and a half ago. Okay. This is the one I was looking for a video that I had in my email somewhere that I'll try to find later. Okay. So this review is from Jake. Jake has 2 dogs, Jack and Dax. They're 2 corgis. For anybody that knows, corgis are a real fucking pain in the asses.
Sure can be.
Okay. He said, if I could give this experience and training staff more than 5 stars, I would. We brought our 2 corgis for an issue with fighting. We left them for a board and stay while we went on a trip. Needless to say, the results are more than what we could have ever expected. Not only do we have our initial concern worked out, our corgis have gained so many new skills. I cannot recommend their trainers, Bridget and David, enough. I want to say also, I didn't really train these dogs. I helped out in one of the lessons with them.
Yeah.
From the communication to the support, everything has been amazing. So this one is so cool because we talk about fighting dogs all the time and how the success rate can be so low with things, right? These dogs, I feel like he almost downplayed it in this. These dogs were getting in nasty fights with each other.
Really?
Now they're corgis, they're fluff balls, so
yeah,
the injuries weren't super crazy. Like they would get like some punctures and stuff like that, but the fluff I think was like armor for them.
Yeah,
you know, and they're small dogs to begin with. But like these dogs' fights were so fucking nasty. And I remember they got in one or two, they got one small tiff and one big fight like the first week and a half when they went home with each other. And the guy got it on video and sent it to us. It was like around their feeding time.
Dang.
And I wanted to be able to pull that video up to play it. I will try my hardest to find it by next week. You'll have to remind me or else I'll forget. But it was insane. Like these dogs were so just fucking like on top of each other going crazy and stuff like that. And this has been, I mean, it's probably been 6 months since they've been home, something like that. And the dogs are just doing great. And Bridget did all these follow-up sessions with them. They do off-leash training all the time now. They feed them no problems. They're not, like it's good. It's harmonious. It's cool. It's really fantastic. And that was a really cool one to see because again, fighting dogs can be some of the hardest possible situations, and they were ultimately able to get past things. This one, I'm not going to read the whole thing. I'll read it. It's short. This one's from Valerie. Valerie is a listener of ours.
Hi, Valerie.
Hi, Valerie. So she'll probably hear this. Hands down, the best money I've ever spent. Everyone is so professional, and they have helped my dog with his fear, aggression, and me to better control him. He is now obedient and way more relaxed and confident. I would recommend them. I would recommend them to anybody. They really are a miracle. We just got that 2 weeks ago. So Valerie, I don't even know how she found out about us initially, but I remember talking with Valerie like a year and a half, maybe even 2 years ago. Wow. Right? Okay. She would message us on Instagram. She would comment on all our YouTube videos and stuff like that. And obviously our training's pretty pricey, and it took her a while to commit both to the price as well as commit to the program. Like 2 years of back and forth trying to figure it out. Finally signed up, worked with Michelle. I think she was a little hesitant to work with Michelle initially because she had been engaging with me and my content, right? So it's like, God, like I don't want to go to like the subpar person or anything. Yeah. It just ain't that way, right? And this review is testament to that, right? If she was able to find the success that she wanted to get with her dog, and she's been crushing it. So really cool. Shout out all our clients. If you're a client and listening to this, we appreciate you so much. Shout out to all our listeners. We appreciate all you guys so much. We're just out here trying to do the best training we can. And the team is all aligned in the same vision of trying to just provide the best service we can to our clients, help them get past their issues, and fuck all y'all that have any sort of bullshit to say about how, we don't like your training methods or this or that or fucking, my favorite guy, should I name drop? Larry Crone, whatever, made another, I'm not even getting into it anymore, but he made another video fucking like 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, something like that, like saying, being really elusive, like hiding the fact that he was talking about my YouTube video that somebody sent him and just really needed his opinion on. And he's basically saying, you don't fucking do anything. You just like to hear yourself talk, and you don't do anything to help provide for your clients and this and that off of a fucking YouTube video, right? Like, God. Whatever. So this.
Yeah.
Let's like it's just not the case. No. So whatever. So
yeah, how many 5 stars we got right now? You got
250.
Yeah.
251. Climbing slowly but surely. Yeah. So whatever. So that's just like that's our mission in this, and that's what we're trying to do. And
yeah, just trying to help people.
We're just trying to help people, and I think we're doing a damn good job with it. And specifically, I think the team is doing a damn good job with it. So that little last segment right there is just kind of highlight the team a little bit and the hard work they're doing.
Yo.
So that's what I got for you guys.
Good. Short, sweet, to the point. Nothing but good tidings.
Good tidings to all. You got anything to add, Josh?
No, man. I think the people speak for themselves, It's it usually takes a lot for someone to actually take the time and make a review or whatever, but it just shows that what you're doing, what the company is doing is changing people's lives with their animals, with their dogs, And I mean, you can't get more gold than actually hearing their testimonies,
100%. Yeah. So we got a bunch of new exciting content that's going to be coming your way over the next week or so. So starting tomorrow morning, I have a new shadow student coming into town that's coming in Monday. Or tomorrow morning we start, be here through the week through Friday. So I'm sure we'll have her probably on the podcast to talk a little bit on Thursday. That's I'm going to try to film quite a bit of that and, just keep pumping out new exciting stuff. And then in like 2 weeks we'll be in Toronto.
Yeah.
My calendar is just about booked up for that, and Paige is going. She's filming it all, so that'll make some really awesome content too. So stay tuned over the next few weeks, and keep engaging. Let us know what you think, and we'll talk soon.
Yep. See you guys.